Hi guys, welcome to Code Bashers. Guys, in this video, we will be discussing @path variable annotation. This is the fifth video in the Spring Boot annotation series. I hope you are following this series. If you are a beginner in Spring Boot or you are preparing for the Spring Boot interview, then this playlist will be very much helpful for you because in this we will be covering all the annotations from basic to advanced level. So make sure that you are present on our channel. Do hit that subscribe button so that in future if we post any video regarding this series or different job updates, then you get the notification. Okay, so I hope you will be following this series. So guys, now let's start this video, and before starting the video, please hit that like button as well as the subscribe button for this channel. Okay, so guys, the path variable annotation. This annotation is used when we have to extract values from the endpoints and use them in our Spring Boot controller methods. For example, this is the entire URI, that is http/localhost 8080 and then API/student/1. Okay, now what we want to find details of students with ID as one. So here at that path variable annotation will come in use. So let's just suppose there is a scenario where we want to get details of a particular student using his roll number, and now his roll number is 1. So what we'll be doing, we will be creating an API, and in that API endpoint we will be passing the ID of that student, and using the ID of that student through endpoint we will be going into database and searching for that roll number in the database. So this is the entire scenario. So how we will be using the path variable annotation in our code, let's just quickly go towards the editor for understanding that. Okay, so now we are in our controller method. So let's just first create a function that is public. It will return a, let's suppose, string. Okay, and it will be details. Name of the function is details. Okay, let's just suppose it will return a string in which it will say I am in details method. Okay, now again we have to map this particular method to any URI. So how we will map it? We will use the request mapping. Okay, request mapping annotation. We will be giving value is equivalent to what will be the endpoint. Let's just suppose slash, let's just suppose anything, slash student slash ID. Now after student, what will be passing? We will be passing the actual ID as I've shown you in the example. Let's suppose 1 2 3 4 5, anything, any roll number we will be passing. So for every roll number we can't make unique methods. Like for 1 this method will be called, and if for 2 another method will be called, for 3 another method. So for that what we'll do, we will keep it dynamic only. So what we'll do, we'll keep it dynamic, and let's just give it a name as ID. So we know that now after the student class, if any ID comes, then this particular function will be fired. Okay, and the method will be get only. Okay, method will be get only. Okay, now we want to use, now we are inside a Java code, inside our controller method. Now we want to fetch this ID, and then we have to go to a repository class for fetching the details of the students from the database. Okay, I will not be writing entire flow that how controller will go to service and how service will go to repository and fetch in the database. Just that we have to currently just fetch this ID from this URI. Just this is our main aim here. So for that, what we are using, we will be using path variable annotation. So path variable annotation we will be using. Okay, what is the data type of this ID? It will be int. Okay, so integer will be taking, okay, after the path variable annotation we will be passing the data type of this ID, and then what should be the name of this ID in our Java code? Let's just give it ID only. So this ID and this ID are same. Okay, and we are using path variable annotation. So using this path variable annotation, now our Spring will know that okay, we have to fetch some information from the URI. Okay, and which information it has to fetch? It has to fetch this ID information, because the name here is same as this particular URI, and this particular variable name is same. Now if you will draw here, and now if we'll try to return that I am in the details method, and let's just suppose and ID is okay, and then we will simply do a plus here, and we'll simply print ID here. Okay, so what it will do, it will fetch the ID. A Spring container using path variable annotation will fetch the ID and it will place it here. Okay, so any ID that 1 2 or 3, anything that will be sending from the from the postman, it will be fetched here using this variable, and it will be printed here. So, and we know that since we are returning this Java object from the Java class, and our postman does not know what a Java object is, therefore it needs to be serialized into JSON objects. For that we'll be using response body here. Okay, now let's just hit this particular endpoint. Now. So let's just start in starting. Let's just give us ID as 1. Okay, so if we will give us ID as 1, okay, slash API, because API will be all automatically appended, because at the class level we have given at the request mapping slash API. If you not watch that video, last video, you can always go in the detail section. Entire playlist is there for this annotation. Okay, so slash student slash ID, so entire URI will become slash API slash student. Is it students or student slash ID, it is 1, and it is a get mapping only. So let's just send it. So here you can see that I am in the details method and ID is 1. We have sent it here, and so therefore 1 has been printed here. So let's just send any random ID. 101, let's just send. 102, let's just send. So I am in details method and the ID is 102. So you can see here that we have sent an ID through the endpoint, and now in our Java code we can use that ID using the path variable annotation. Now how this ID will flow, it will be flown through service, some processing will be there, and then it will be gone to repository, so that we can fetch the ID details. We can fetch the details of the students using this ID. So entire flow can be now done, because now we have our ID in our controller method. That is, in starting method we have our ID here. Now one thing to note here is, how does Spring knows that, okay, there can be a scenario wherein there can be 2 path variables. Let's suppose this is one ID, and then there will be another, let's just suppose there is another ID 1. This can be also scenario that inside a single endpoint there are 2 or 3 path variables that are present. So if we will do it like this, now how will our Spring know that in this ID variable this ID should go, and in this ID 1, that is at the rate path variable integer ID 1, this ID should be mapped to this ID, and this ID 1 should be mapped to this ID 1. So how will our Spring know? So currently how does the Spring knows? Because the name of these endpoints are same. So here the endpoint in endpoint ID is path variable is ID, and inside Java also this ID. So these names are same. So this ID will map to this ID, and this ID 1 will be mapped to this ID 1. Now let's suppose that no, in my Java code I do not want to use this ID as a variable name. I want to use it as the first ID. Let's suppose first ID, and second one we have to use as the second ID. Now how will Spring knows that this first ID should be mapped to this ID, and this second ID should be mapped to this ID 1? Because earlier the variable name was also same, so therefore it was mapping automatically. Now we have to explicitly mention in the path variable annotation only that which ID from the endpoint should be mapped to this first ID. Okay, so let's just give it here. Okay, just a second. Okay, so let's just give it here. So now we know that this ID should be same as this ID. So from the endpoint, this ID should be mapped to this first ID, and from the endpoint, this ID 1 should be mapped to second ID. And now we can, like, here we can give first ID, and then we can like also append, let's just suppose second ID plus second ID. Okay, let's just do it like this. What's the error coming? Not a statement, insert a return. Okay, sorry, here we have to add a plus sign. Yes, now let's just rerun it. So this is how the entire mapping is done. If you will be keeping the variable name same, then no need to give it like this. But if you wish that your variable name in Java code should be different from the variable name inside this endpoint, then you will have to give it like this. Okay, now let's just try to end the endpoint. So 2 IDs will be providing. One is 102, next one is 103. Now let's just see if it returns the correct answer or not. So you can see that the first ID has been printed as 102, and the second ID has been printed as 103 only. So this is how the path variable annotation is working. So I hope now the path variable annotation is clear to you, entire theoretical part as well as this coding part. So guys, this was it for this video. If you are liking this series, do hit that subscribe button for more such videos, and do comment down that what type of videos you want to see on this channel. Thank you for watching this video.